and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance still coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Do-It-Yourself Budget Hot Rodding, Lady Mavericks Unite. In today's episode, we're going to talk about brakes, but not just anything you kind of expect, change brake. We're not going to go into that deep. What we're going to do today is we're just going to kind of go over something so simple. Anybody can do it, okay? Anybody can do it. It's a very simple, easy fix, and it's one that, ironically enough, that people pay high dollar to have done, and they shouldn't. So how does this all work? Well, what I'm referring to is topping off your master cylinder. Now, we'll talk a little bit about that in this particular video, but we're going to mainly talk about just putting fluid in your master cylinder. Okay? But before we just dive into that, a lot of you probably need to know, how does this all work? How does your brake system work? And why does it need a fluid to make it work? Well, stick around, ladies, as we continue to dive into this particular segment, and you'll understand it. And then we're even going to check the master cylinder here on Project Lena, and we might even go so far as to talk about the brake system on Project Spirit and how it still relates to today. The first stop on our trip is going to be to the inside of Project Lena. Now, this is not going to, even though this is a newer vehicle, it's pretty much going to be the same on Project Lena as it is going to be on Project Spirit. But for you ladies out there, we all know that when you push in the brake pedal like such, it stops the car. Okay, but there's a little bit more involved in that. Now, Project Lena and Project Spirit both utilize what is known as a hydraulic brake system. So what actually happens is you've got your master cylinder up there, which I'll show you guys that here just shortly. But you have your master cylinder up there, and when you push down on the brake pedal, and it's going to vary a little bit from manufacturer to manufacturer, but what happens when you push that pedal in, it basically pushes on the back of that master cylinder, thus forcing the brake fluid to the different brakes on the car. The ones up front, the ones in the back, thus stopping the vehicle. Now, obviously, there's a lot more involved in that. How the brake systems work, whether it's, disc brakes, drum brakes, so on and so forth. There's a lot more involved with that. However, just for the purposes of this video, we're going to keep it pretty simple. So, it's imperative that you keep that master cylinder topped off. And every 6 months to 1 year, depending on the amount of driving that you do, I even recommend you have the system flushed every once in a while. Have brand new brake fluid put in. This is super, super, super important that you do this, because if not, that fluid breaks down. It can cause damage to the entire brake system. And this is how lines can wear out quicker and things like that. So take the time and have that done every once in a while. Now, let's get up underneath the hood and let's talk about the master cylinder itself. Okay, folks, the master cylinder on a vehicle is generally going to be, if you're here in the United States or you live in a country where the driver's side is over on this side of the car, your master cylinder is going to be on that side of the car. Very simple. If you're in a country where the driver's side's on the other side, master cylinder is going to be over there, because it has to attach to the brake pedal. And the armature has to be very simple, especially in modern day cars with as much stuff as they put in them. You need a way to basically make that armature as simple as possible. But by and large, here in the United States, the master cylinder is going to be on this side of the car, unless you import one. The driver's side's on the opposite side, and the master cylinder is usually right here. Okay, very easy to find. Now, in behind that is going to be this great big looking metal drum sort of thing, and it's called the brake booster. Now, the brake booster, what its job is to provide power brakes, and it draws a vacuum directly from the engine. And when you depress the pedal, it releases that vacuum, thus giving you power brakes, making it easier to to stop the vehicle. Now on Project Spirit, she has the old manual brakes, and so she doesn't have a brake booster. On a lot of drag cars, a lot of guys opt out to not have power brakes. Is this necessarily dangerous? No, you just got to push in the pedal harder to stop the vehicle. That's really all you have to understand. So Project Spirit has manual brakes, whereas Project Lena has power brakes. That's really as simple as it gets. Now, on some of your older cars, that manual brakes is very commonplace. With more modern cars, power brakes is going to be the norm. And this is excluding, obviously, ABS systems or anti-lock brake systems. That's another subject for another time. But by and large, all vehicles in some way, shape, or form are going to have, power brakes. And it's just a big metal drum in behind the master cylinder. Now, this here is the master cylinder, as I pointed out earlier. And all you have to do is just take the top off and just fill it up every once in a while. Fill it up to, where they recommend. And this here is the brake fluid. Now, this is a DOT3 brake fluid, which is what Project Lena requires. By the way, Project Spirit requires the same thing. Now, in more modern times, we're seeing a DOT4 and a DOT5. Really, the major difference is that the higher up it goes, the better, the more resistant it is to heat. And it doesn't break down as easily as the DOT3. However, the DOT3 has worked fine for years. Why they went to that? It probably has something to do with the stop and go traffic. So we're going to top off her master cylinder. And we're just going to fill it up to where the factory recommends. That's as simple as it gets. So, really quick, while we're also talking about brake fluids, don't mix them. I know certain ones you can, but I don't recommend it, okay? If you want to go to a different, if you want the DOT4, DOT 4.5, or the DOT5, I recommend, talking to a mechanic and seeing about if you can upgrade to that particular fluid. Just bear in mind, if that's a way you want to go, make sure that, if you will, make sure that the mechanic thinks it's possible. All right, so that's pretty much it. That's as simple as it gets. Just topping off your master cylinder. So now you ladies have yet another simple tool in the bag on something so simple, because a lot of folks will just drive the vehicle, and then one day the brake system's not working right. Come find out they just weren't checking they weren't just checking the fluid level, so they've got air in the lines, and then it's a trip to the shop to have the brakes, the whole system filled up, and then come find out it may even be. So keep an eye on this. How often should you check it? Once a week. Once a week. Just check it and make sure that that the fluid is topped off at the recommended level. All right, folks. That brings us to our stopping point for the day. Another simple video, something so simple, just topping off your brake fluid. So now again, you ladies have yet another skill in the bag. So that brings us to the spot where I get to tell you guys, if you like this sort of content, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to the Prince Magnum channel, you might want to consider doing so. We try to provide content like this on a regular. How regular? As often as we possibly can. So, if you also enjoy, maybe you want to, maybe you enjoy the Prince Magnum channel so much that you yourself would like to contribute to the cause. Well, go to the main page here on the Prince Magnum channel, and there's an About section. On that About section, there's a listing for the Patreon account. Consider becoming a member of the High Mileage Club, because all the proceeds will go back into the project cars, making them run even better than ever before. And you might even get a little bit more say-so than if you had not subscribed, became a member of the Patreon account. Along with that, maybe you ought to even consider getting yourself some Prince Magnum channel merchandise. We have the Teespring store with all sorts of merchandise in there for Project Spirit, and hopefully one day we'll have some stuff for Project Lena. But Beyond that scope, that brings us to the spot where I get to say to all of you out there, especially to our Lady Mavericks, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourselves. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. As always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
Sayer, 6.22 with an over 116 miles an hour. And right now, good time to go get a hot dog while we wait for Cam.